Sometimes the greatest business lessons don't come from a boardroom. They come from hospital waiting rooms, school meetings, and the everyday moments of raising a child with special needs. Today, we're talking with someone who's transformed those experiences into a mission to help neurodivergent entrepreneurs thrive. So sit back, relax, and grab your favorite beverage, and let's learn more about my next guest. See you there, everybody.
I wanna believe in the truth, but only see what I'm shown. Got the freedom to choose, but can't decide on my own. Follow what the group is thinking, bottle up my intuition till it's popping up.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Neurodivergent Connection. Today, I'm joined with Beth Silver. Welcome to the show, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
I am absolutely fine. So, Beth, before the advocacy work, before the PR firm, before becoming the person helping other families, who were you before motherhood changed everything?
I think I just was my parents' daughter from Long Island. I did marketing and PR and television and apparel. And then I got married and had children, and my son was diagnosed with autism. And I kind of realized, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. I'm a pretty competent person, but I don't understand this. And then I just started to kind of learn.
Back then, what did you think your life was going to look like?
I thought I was going to have two children, which I do. I thought I was going to have a boy and a girl, which I do not. I have two boys. I thought I was going to live on Long Island or Westchester, which I do not. I live in Manhattan. And yeah, I really didn't think my life was going to be as adventurous as it has become.
Was your younger you someone who naturally stepped into leadership and advocacy, or did life pull you out of that later?
I think in some ways I always took leadership roles, but nowhere did I ever expect that I would get calls daily from parents in need who have questions, that I would have a part of my business work with neurodivergent entrepreneurs or businesses that cater to the neurodivergent community, or that I would just speak out on things that are wrong. I never thought that I would be as vocal as I am about anything, but I'm definitely vocal.
What parts of that earlier version of yourself do you still carry today?
I try to have fun. I try to realize that, this too shall pass. It's never the end. It's only a stop. So I don't give up. I'm very tenacious. And I think that the old me looking at the current me would just laugh. Would just laugh.
Now, take me to the first moment you realize your children experience the world differently from what the world expected.
So I have two children, and my older son was reading very young, and I think in kindergarten he was the first person who could read. Everyone was so impressed. And when my younger son was born, he was the 18th month checkup, and my husband said, you should really ask the doctor. You know, he doesn't say as many words. He's not laughing when you should laugh. He's eating a lot of food, like the amount of food. I think it was like 50 ounces of formula, which is just like insane. He wasn't sleeping, and I remember going to the pediatrician, going, "Does this sound right to you? Because I'm just so tired." And maybe it's having two kids, and maybe that's what it's about. And the pediatrician first said, wait until the 2-year checkup. And then she stopped about 5 minutes into the next thing that she was doing as she was looking at Matt. And she goes, dads never say anything. It's like, your husband is really kind of vocal about this. Why don't you get him checked? Let's go to a speech therapist and have him evaluated. And at that moment, at the speech therapist, it was like a week or so later, she gave me a pad of paper and she said, write everything down and prepare yourself. And at that moment, this journey of, early intervention started. And then the therapist kept on calling us and saying, it could be autism. It could be this. It could be that. And I'm like, oh, is that going to be in your report? And they said no. And my husband was really clear with me. He goes, if you're going to get a label, get the right one. And we have been very, very methodical about making sure that we have the right diagnoses, we have the right labels. Not that my son should be labeled, but knowing what services he could have to be able to be his best. And um, I'm glad. I think, people don't realize how lucky, you know, I feel because my son sees his life with a different lens. And let me tell you, it's a great lens. He's a great kid. Keeps me on my toes.
What emotions were happening underneath that realization?
Well, originally I was like, all right, I'm just going to get this done. And then when he was in kindergarten, he was in it's called the ASD Nest program. It was a program in the DOE for children with autism. It's an ICT program, and he wasn't doing well. And it was the wrong setting. And they said it was too late to help him. And I just started crying. And
Hmm.
my friend heard me on the phone and she goes, wait a minute. Beth doesn't cry. Beth doesn't not have a solution. And by the end of that day, I was connected to my attorney. And so I could talk to an attorney to find out, okay, what this is all about. And I mean, I think it's, 8 or 9 years later, I still have the same attorney. And my kid has been to, 5 different schools because every couple of years it's less restrictive. And, I ask for help. And I utilize people. I mean, my Instagram handle is Beth Would Know because I need to meet as many people as possible and I want to pay it forward. I never want to feel like I did that day at the Second Avenue Deli, like crying, like I needed help.
Now, what emotions were happening underneath that realization?
Oh, I was terrified because I couldn't help him. I didn't know what to do, and I'm not scared anymore. There's nothing that can scare me. I know who to call, I know what to do, and if I don't know, I'll find the person. And I think this has been probably the single most important um growth opportunity for me to see, okay, this is how we utilize things. And look, when you're raising a child who's neurodivergent, especially when you're, suing the Department of Education and doing all these things because they don't have schools for them, it's wild. So you really have to have a very, very, very strong constitution to be able like, let's get the answer. Let's do this because it's a very scary experience.
Now, did your instincts understand something before the professionals around you did?
Now, probably not in the beginning, but now, like if I can tell 3 weeks before the medication stops, before the doctors do, like I'll text them and be like, something's wrong. We're going through puberty. We're going through a growth spurt. Something's different. And they never believe me, but now it's like the 3 week rule. I can smell it. I watch it. I see it, the behavior. And also I'm so proficient now in different types of therapy. Like, whether it's, ABA or CBT or DBT or whatever, I see that antecedent. I see what's coming. I look at the triggers and I've learned so much where I have these real conversations with my kids' teams to be able to say, all right, how do we move to the next level? And and also being afraid. I put my son in really uncomfortable positions because that's what life's about. He finds people annoying. Well, he's going to sleepaway camp because he knows it's the right thing for him.
Now, was there a moment where you realized the hardest part wasn't your child being neurodivergent, but the way the world responded to them?
Oh, 100%. I mean, when Matt was little and he has ARFID, which is avoidant restrictive intake disorder, he's afraid of food. And we used to go to well, we still do. My mother-in-law lives in Florida, and we would go to her community that she lives in, and Matt used to eat under a tablecloth. And at one point, that's how he could eat because he had to block everyone out, not to see the food. And people would look, and I would be like, "What are you looking at? What's the problem? Are we bothering you? Are we embarrassing you?" And because I have I have a big mouth. I have no problem saying that to someone respectively. And it's really calling them out because there's no reason anyone should not have an amazing opportunity at living, whether whatever their neurodivergence is. It doesn't have to be autism. It could be a nonverbal learning disability. It could be borderline personality. It could be dyslexia. It could be ADHD. It doesn't matter. So it's I think it's so important for people to really be respectful of everyone. And also, I have friends whose children are nonverbal. Their level of promise is much lower than my child's level of promise. And I will tell you that those children have taught me so much about life and so much about what my child needs to learn. And I think that that is something that people really should take note of.
Now, you said what they taught you about life, but what did that teach you about people?
Well, some people are afraid. They're afraid of what they don't know. They're afraid of themselves and what they might uncover of their own life. But also, most people actually are lovely. They're kind, they're empathetic, they're eager to learn, they're surprised. But then there are some people that are just, have their own shtick and have their own baggage that they have to unpack. I mean, I remember Matt was probably 5 or 6 and he eloped, which means he used to run. So one day he got off the bus in front of our apartment and ran. And when he ran, and by our apartment, we have 2 parking garages. So I dropped my pocketbook and I started running. And my neighbor, who I did not know very well, but she had she had a daughter, obviously, who was much older than mine. And she goes, "Don't you worry, I'll watch your bag." And I'll be honest, the last thing I was thinking about at that moment was my pocketbook. And to this day, when I came back, she goes, "You're a really good mother." And I don't say that about anyone. And to this day, we're very good friends. And she's very protective of my son. And Matt doesn't elope anymore. But it was really interesting, the thoughts of what she had about me. And I think that was it. She's like, oh, like at that moment, she watched me drop my pocketbook was less important than my kid. And I laugh about that today. I even laugh with her. She goes, "Oh, I did that." I'm like, "Oh yeah." And she's much older than I am. So it's a funny conversation generationally, and kind of go from there. But people will surprise you in a good way.
Did you ever feel like you were constantly translating your children to the world?
Oh, of course. Of course. I think especially now, because as Matthew grows and he's beginning to really try to manage social interactions in a much more mature way, um, he might need some help. So actually, I did that the other day. But I include him. He had a situation. I said, may I have this discussion with this adult? And first he said yes, and then he said no. And I said, let me call and give him some context. And yes, I'm not to the level I used to, because he really has um learned a lot more and can be more assimilated and more like mainstream in a lot of ways. But yeah, he has his headset, he stims, people definitely look, but I don't care. They're not hurting him or them.
How exhausting can that become for a parent emotionally?
Oh, if you do not have a support system, you're done. It'll affect your blood pressure. It'll affect your cholesterol. It'll affect your health. It'll affect your marriage. It'll affect your friendships. So I really, really implore everyone, every parent, I don't care if it's neurodivergent or not, to have self-care, to talk to someone, to, go do something, to follow their hobbies. Because if you don't, you will have be empty. And also understand boundaries. I think that boundaries are really important. What I'll do, what I won't do for my own child as well as myself. And also being really honest with your friends. My friends will call me up and tell me about their lives, and I tell them about mine. I do not sugarcoat it. I do not filter it. And we don't have the same experiences. I'm not jealous of them. They're not jealous of me. Um, but I'll tell you, and they know that some of the things I'm dealing with might be a little more complex than what they're dealing with at that moment, because we don't parent the same way. We do not have the same communications with our kids. We do not have the same reactions with our kids. And my friends whose children are neurotypical, really appreciate that and are surprised I'm so, believe it or not, I'm so open when in many cases they're not. They're learning to be because I have no, I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed my kid may do something differently. Doesn't matter. He's not bad. He's not a bad kid.
Now, there are seasons many parents go through where it feels like they're surviving appointment to appointment, meeting to meeting, meltdown to meltdown. Did you go through that chapter like that?
Oh yeah, I still do. It's every, it's you, we live on a week to week basis. Sometimes I live on a minute to minute basis. It really depends, but I also have a really good support system. In New York, there's something called OPWDD, the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities, and Matthew qualifies, and he has ComHab workers that come and help us and help me and really help, and we have therapists after school. So I utilize our team, and I've also learned to be very, very quick. So if I'm like last week, we were at the doctor for his 14-year-old physical, and his eyes, he needs to get his eyes checked. Well, I'm not going to wait until I get home to make the eye appointment. I'm going to wait till they get the doctor. I'm going to call right then. I'm going to have the appointment because if I wait, I'm going to forget. And I need to be able to plan, okay, what am I going to do? So in many ways, it's a race. It's a long, long marathon. But you need really good systems. Like I have really good systems in place that have taken years to create.
Now, what did survival mode actually look like in your day-to-day life?
Oh, I'm drinking a lot of coffee. I'm trying to get everything done. I'm just my hands are everywhere and I just stop and I figure out what could be done short term, medium term, and long term. And I have actually changed my systems. I treated myself like a client actually. And I looked at my life and I said, okay, what provides me the most stress? What do I need to fix? How do I fix this? And I've actually trying when I feel survival mode coming, I call and ask for help. And I'm very honest about it because and you know something, having it, go to have a therapist available if you need one, use your friends, whatever it is, because at the end of the day, if you're the one that when the plane goes down, you're putting the oxygen on you and then your kid. So if
Yeah.
you're not as safe as you can, and by the way, that'll change. As you get older, you know, it'll your child needs to in some ways be the most independent one, and if they're not, then you have to look at guardianship and other things going on there, and those conversations are they're very important because you never know when they're going to happen. You have to plan short and long term, and you have to ask questions, and you have to be curious, and you have to not to be that afraid.
Now, were there moments where you felt completely alone in it?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, it can happen, and it springs up on you. And when that happens, I crawl into my bed, I go under my covers, I watch, something on my phone or my iPad, or I read a book, and then I go, okay, I get through that, emotional mind that I'm in, and say, okay, what do I need to do? And I talk to my husband and my friends and my kids' therapists, and I go, okay, how do I do this? Am I alone? What am I doing? And I'll tell you, if you don't kind of self-check and do some, check-ins with yourself, you're not going to help your kid. I mean, it's so important. I don't run, but I like Pilates. So I'll go to Pilates. If I'm freaking out, I'll be there 3 times a week. If I'm not freaking out, it might be one or two. But it's really important to go to the doctor to make sure that your blood pressure's okay and you're doing things and because you're human. You're supposed to go through like ups and downs, and you're not going to feel, happy every minute. You can't.
Now, how do you keep yourself from disappearing while taking care of everyone else?
I make sure I have time to myself. I really do. I have my business that I run, and I work with, lots of different people. I see my friends. I also make sure that I'm really honest of like some weeks it's not about me. And some weeks it's all about me. So I really, not intentionally, but it's just the way the week is. So I try to do it that way.
Now, advocates are often the people everyone leans on, but who held you up during the hardest moments?
My friends. My friends and my kids' therapists. They taught me. My friends giving me my that lawyer that day, introducing me to Maria, my attorney. I will tell you, that was the single I was terrified calling. I remember like because I didn't know what school Matt was going to go to. I didn't know what was going on. And once we found someone that said, "Oh, this is the school you need to go to, and this is the therapies that you need, and this is what's going to happen." And when I look back now, I mean, my son's been to 4 or 5 schools and he's in the least restrictive. It's really it's a testament of what we keep on doing to push and to help and to grow. And it's not always typical what my son sees. But I think it's also you have to be curious and take everybody's opinion. Like I hear everything, try this, meet this, do it. And I remember everyone, so I will connect them. And I mean, this morning, and one of the advocates in New York City was like, I need people at these 2 schools. Who knows them? I'm like, I know them. She's like, I'm like, let me connect you. Wait, you know them? And my kids didn't go to both of those schools, but it's important to kind of make sure that, you're involved and say thank you. It's really important. I'm so grateful of the people who have helped me, and I'm grateful that I'm able to help so many people.
Now, did people truly understand what you were carrying?
No, they still don't. No one really has like no, no one has a clue. But you want to know something? You don't know what life is like when a parent dies. You don't know what life is like until you experience that. And I think in a lot of ways, that was kind of the way it was. I mean, and like so when my parent died, I went through I didn't realize, and now it's kind of like when you have a child through a different path, people think they understand, and that's okay. I don't really care. I don't want someone to be in my shoes. I have a lot of my shoes have a lot of padding because I stand up on them a lot. And I think that if you're, and I have friends who have it far harder than I do, and some have it, it's not a competition, but we're all here for each other. I mean, thank goodness whoever invented chat. I am so grateful because my friends, I mean, we just chat. And I have different friends. I have my friends who have only neurodivergent children, and then I have friends that have neurodivergent and neurotypical kids, and then I have friends who have, neurotypical kids. And the fact that I am able to kind of flow through all 3 of those, groups is really unique because it's not so easy.
Now, what did support look like when you actually received it?
Oh, well, first, I think it was just therapists giving me the tools. I also think it was validation that this is hard and you're not supposed to know all the answers. And I'm still learning. I mean, I'm still learning about boundaries. I'm still learning about what should be done. I mean, we had a situation here last week with my son, and the funniest part was he was acting like a normal 14-year-old would act. And I was like, huh, isn't that interesting? So it's like he crept up on it. I was like, oh, first he didn't act appropriately, but now here you go. And I think that's where um you're realizing the support. So I look everywhere for help. It could be my mother, it could be my friends, it could be my mother-in-law, it could be my in-laws, it could be my nieces, it could be my friends' kids, it could be my kids, my therapist. I mean, I have such a deep bench. And I think that that's really important that, I have clients who are neurodivergent. There's nothing better than asking them a question of like, so tell me. Like one of my clients is autistic and he hated ABA therapy and he always talked badly about it. And I'm like, well, it's worked for me. Tell me what didn't work for you. Like, and it was and he goes, and it was the provider and it was 25 years ago. And it was, but being able to have that conversation with that gentleman who is very successful and a parent and all, and it was like, wow. And we learn from each other. So it's fun. I try to have some fun.
Now, was there ever a moment where someone simply seeing you changed everything
For me or for them?
for you?
You know, I get so I'm in a lot of Facebook groups, and I say that if you're in any group for any reason, I'm in a lot of these Facebook groups. And a lot of these parents, whether and some are moms, some are dads, when their child is first diagnosed or they're having a problem or they're not don't know what to do, I always say, call me. Just call me. If you want to talk, call me. And I will tell you that I must talk to 20 or 30 parents a week at least. And that makes me really happy that I'm not, someone isn't crying like I did that day at the Second Avenue Deli, where I didn't know what to do. So for me, that's important. And then it's nice when they'll text me back or call me back and they'll say, thank you. I feel so much better. Or now I have a plan. I mean, I'll get off the phone with someone and they will have a plan on what to do. And they'll call me and be like, I don't understand what's happening. And I give them a plan because after 7 or 8 or 9 years, whatever, how long I've been doing this with my kids in school, but 14 in life, I pretty much like I know who to talk to. I know what to, and my therapists know it, and my doctors know it. So if I see something, and I think that's the fun part is that there are so many doctors who are like, all right, Beth, who am I calling? I mean, I have doctors who will call me and say, I have a client, I have a patient. Can I give him your name? I'm like, yeah, you can give anybody my name. And because they're like, they need a parent to talk to. They need this. And I'm like, yeah, just call me. It's fine. It makes me, it's the best validation, but also it's, it truly makes me feel happy that I'm helping someone not feel pain or fear or uncertainty because it's scary. The unknown is scary. And by the way, neurodivergency is not a bad word and it's not something that you should be ashamed. It's how you see life. It's your lens. No offense. Doesn't mean everybody's on a spectrum. Everybody is. So it's like figure out where you are and what you're doing and let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, when I originally got into advocating and podcasting and everything else, early on in the Facebook groups, I mean, there are people out there, there are parents out there who refuse to say their child has a disability. And I'm like,
Wow.
do you realize what you're doing to your child? If you don't get your child the proper label and the proper support, your child's going to struggle. And they're like, I don't want to label my child
Well,
disabled because
that's
I'm not. I'm like, you can label them whatever the hell you want to label them. I had a friend that said they can call it a purple pink elephant, but it's still they're disabled.
and I'll tell you, it was my husband who was like, listen, if you're gonna get the label, get it right. And I remember Matt was 18 months old, and I was like, what? And I was on the phone with that early intervention person, and I was like, and they wouldn't put it in the report. And I was like, wait a minute, you're telling me on the side he's autistic, but you're not telling me. And it's not like he had, it was the worst thing ever. He's
No,
autistic. Okay, he's
it just
autistic.
means we
Okay.
think differently.
It means yes, it does. And you know something? It's my son is the best black and white thinker you could ever think, and I am the best gray thinker. And that's the problem. We have to put it together. And but that's okay. And I think that's the issue. I mean, there are so many people that will call me and say, I don't want a label, or I don't want the school to know, or I
No.
don't want my mother-in-law to know. And I'm like, what? Or medication. I love the medication conversation
Oh God.
because I'm like,
I
look,
mean,
if you,
people don't realize there is no medication for autism. Zip,
no,
zero,
what
zero.
there,
For
no, but
ADHD, yes, but not for autism. I
right.
mean, I did a clinical research for a drug for autism to help with communication, and it didn't last because COVID hit. And then they claimed they didn't get the figures. Well, it could be one or the other, but there is no medication that can help with autism.
But there are medications that can help with other, existing things. So my son is ADHD.
Anxiety,
Exactly.
OCD.
Exactly. And you want to know something? My on top of my son's autism, he has a speech and language learning disability. And once we were able to look at, okay, how can we help his processing? How can we help his ADHD? How can we help his anxiety? And even yesterday, I was chatting with his doctor about we were uncovering something that he believes in, that he's afraid of, and the doctor goes, It's not about medication. It's not, this is therapy. This is understanding and teaching him this and that, and how quickly he will adjust to that behavior. So I always say to people that whatever approaches that you're going to work on, it's multifaceted, as is everybody's. It's like, look, you have high blood pressure, you might need, yeah, you might need a medicine, you might need a statin, you might need, or you might just need to eat better, or you might need everything. It's not a judgment. It's just what it is.
I mean, people don't realize, yeah, there is no medication for autism, but there's medication for everything else that comes with it.
Oh,
Anxiety, OCD, um, you
and
name it, there's a medication for it, but
and for
not for the
years,
main cause.
exactly. And for years, like Matthew couldn't swallow pills, so we compounded everything. And we flavored everything. And then I would worry. And then all of a sudden, I think it was I guess it was last May or June. We were like, he needs to learn how to swallow a pill now. Like now. Like he has to learn. He's gonna, and now
My,
he-
my father had problems swallowing a pill, and what he does is he'll throw it back into the bottom back of his throat and then take a swig of water.
and there's many different ways of doing it, and there's great videos. I mean, I forgot which hospital I looked at. There was like a few, and we looked at videos and we practiced with different things. But the point is, like with everything, you practice, and like with everything you learn. And Matthew didn't sleep for 7 years. He didn't have that self soothing skill that people have. And let me tell you, it was years ago. One of his ABA therapist's children was having trouble sleeping. And he goes, Alyssa, I just want you to know, if you get the red light, green light lamp from Amazon and you teach them not to get out of bed until it's green, that's one way. And then then when they stay in bed all night, you can give them a Lego minifigure. I don't know if you know this. I used to have thousands. And the therapist looked at me and I looked at her, and we just laughed because that was our plan. For years, we taught him how to stay in bed, how to go back to bed. What now my son puts himself to bed. It doesn't matter what. But again, it's a learning, and but the fact that he could articulate the process to the person who actually taught it to him, he doesn't remember that part. And yeah, you can learn so much from, if you just stop and think, you can learn so much from everyone. And I hope people do that.
Now, at what point did advocacy stop being something personal to your family, to you and your family, and become part of your purpose?
I think it always was. I think I never want I always helped people. My business is I'm a marketing consultant. So I'm always giving people ways of fixing things and doing it. So that's my nature. And I think that once I I realized that I could help someone not be as nervous and afraid as I was, and that show them that there is a path, even if it may not work, but they at least have someone to call. And that was it. I think it was immediate. And I'm so proud that I'm able to do this. It is really something that fulfills my life in ways I can't even imagine. And yeah.
Now, do you remember the first time someone reached out for help?
Yes. Yeah. It was probably, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. It was, because my friends would always say, I have my friend Beth will help you, because everyone has a friend who's going through something with their kid. And Beth will help you. Talk to Beth. Her sons do, because I didn't live in a closet. I lived, very vocally. My friends knew what I was going through. I had no problem talking about my, very different, zany, crazy life. Which by the way is fine. I mean, it is what it is. I don't care. I love it. I love my kids. I love my life. But let me tell you, it's juggling. I juggle.
Now, what made you realize your voice could actually change things for others?
When I saw it happening. When people said, you should really do this. You should really figure out a way to make this, something bigger. And when I hear from professionals who are like, really, or they would call me like, you know, educational consultants would call me and say, "What do you think of this school? What do you think of this? Or what's going on in this area?" Or and I market schools for a living as part of my specialties education. And I would have people call and ask me questions about that. And then I'm like, there's more here. There's a lot more. And it doesn't matter. For me, it's special needs. For others, it could be, an illness or a passing of a relative or a job or, I think it's just so important to help other people. Like, and people know you can call me. Like Beth would know the answer to this. Let's call Beth.
Did helping other families also help heal parts of yourself?
Maybe it made me feel better that I wasn't alone, but I think I just love hearing also um it is no one's alone. Everyone has the same issues, whether it's like, how does my wife understand? How does my husband understand? Or I'm going through a divorce and they don't understand. Or how do I tell my kids, or what do I do? Um and everyone has a different way. I mean, we were going through, a family member of ours the last few months was very ill, and we had to explain to our son about illness and death and life and, missing, et cetera, which is, by the way, very hard for a neurotypical
Yeah.
child.
I
And
mean,
then
I
to,
know that. I
you
know
know,
that so heartily. I mean, I lost my father and in 2017, and being in the hospital and with surrounded by family and everything, it's tough.
it is. And to explain it to my other son, to explain it to my son. And I think being able to help other people going, well, this is how we did it. And this is, and by the way, it's a work in progress. No one's perfect on this. And there isn't, the one book, and it's
Yeah,
hard.
but you want to really throw a neurodivergent child through a ringer. You put them in with a parent in the emergency room when they're waiting hours and hours and hours, and
Yep.
they have to figure out how to occupy themselves, how to keep them from spiraling out of control.
Ugh.
And I went through that for the first time. I refused to go, after I lost my father, I refused to go to an emergency room. My brother was always the one to take my mom in case something happened. He's been it through with my sister-in-law's family and her mother and father and all this. But the first time I did it with my mom about a year ago, I'm sitting there and I'm trying everything to think of, try to keep my mind occupied. I'm walking around, I'm talking to other people waiting, and it's cold and I'm freezing, and then once you even get into a room and you get seen by the doctors, and it's that waiting process of, okay, they see you and now it's waiting for discharge. We didn't get discharged. We got in at about 5. We didn't get discharged till 5 the next morning.
And I hope when you got home
We
and
fell
you
asleep.
settled your mother, down, that you commended yourself and you celebrated how well you handled that, because that is hard for anyone.
Yeah,
But
it is.
knowing, but
I
knowing what,
collapsed.
yep, but knowing what your own challenges are, whether it was the temperature or the sound or the lights or the people or the anxiety or the whatever. I hope that and I hope today, as you retell this story, you say to yourself at the end, I don't want to do it again, but I'm glad I did it. And the next time, I'm going to be okay. Because something,
Yeah,
it's really important because you're human, and it's
yeah.
really, really, really um amazing. Amazing.
I mean, I have a really good friend who lives in California who's become the caretaker of his parents because both of them are disabled. One
Oh
of them,
no.
his mother's been hit by COVID twice and it's weakened her heart. And his father's got bone spurs and he can't work. And both his siblings one's got high anxiety and the other's got level 2 to 3 autism. So
Oh.
he's the one he's autistic himself. I'm like, how do you handle the emergency rooms and the waiting? He's like, have a phone and headphones and just listen to music and play a game.
Yeah.
All you got
And
to do.
a battery charger. I have more
Yeah.
battery chargers in my bag, and that and also praise yourself. Get you if eating a chocolate bar is going to help you, eat 100 bars. Like it doesn't matter. Like at that moment, because it's that scary on a good day. And if you know what your triggers are, I mean, and that's the most important thing is knowing what your triggers are. Like I used to know whenever I got nervous, I would cough. And once I realized what made me cough, and at the time it was that my father was so sick and if he died, what was I going to do? And then once I realized what my trigger was, and I was in my 30s at this time, I said, okay, now I got to figure this out. And I see it. My husband and I both know, like when I cough, I'm getting scared. There's okay, what's really happening? All right, Beth, we have to break this down. What are we doing? I need help. And I think the best thing anyone can do is what is the thing that scares you the most? And don't think, and say, okay, how do I break it down so it's at least manageable? Because autism or not, you're human and it's really hard. And there's no reason for you to beat yourself up. I mean, listen, you're going to do it anyway, but
Yeah.
please forgive yourself at the end.
Now you work in marketing and PR, which really is about shaping stories and perception. Did becoming a neurodivergent parent change the way you understand communication itself?
Oh yeah, everything I do. I mean, I've always marketed my business as though I was a target advocate because I always look at things from the end and then go back to the beginning and figure out, okay, what's the path and how does it do it? But now, whether I'm working with a school or I'm working with an author or I'm working with an entrepreneur or just a regular business,
Mhm.
I very much look at, okay, what are you trying to say? How can we say it more effectively? And who can't listen to it? I mean, I think a couple of years ago, I was working with an advertising agency. I was their PR firm. I was their outside PR firm. They had an internal one. And they called me because they were redoing the offices for to be more sensory friendly. And they were talking to me about how, what could be done. And I said, well, let's start with the walls. Are there walls? Or is it an open space? What's the lighting like? How loud is it? What is this? Where can they go? Do you have this? Do you and it realized that it's now so ingrained in my life of everything, of how I break things down, about how people learn. Everyone learns differently. So the level I have clients that I can only give pieces of information to at a time. Now, it drives me crazy because I like to give everything, but they really can only handle the snippet. And okay, come back. And I have to slow it down. And it's not disrespectful, it's understanding. It really is, or how we manage things, how we plan things. And I think that um I'm also able to really, I kind of look at the arc, the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence of a behavior. And then I'm watching. I mean, I had a conversation with someone yesterday actually, and they wanted to hire me. And I knew from their temperament and their expectations that we are not on the same page. And I really broke it down. I broke the behavior down. I broke the situation. And the gentleman looked at me and he goes, oh, I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. And I got off the phone. I was so happy because I didn't, I had done it respectfully, but I really tried to think about, okay, how can he understand? Now, do I think he completely gets it? No, but I was able to help. And I think that's and I'm not always right. I learn from everyone, and I think that's the point. You have to be open to learning because if you're not, well, your brain stops, but more importantly, you're not learning and you're not able to help. And if you're connecting with people, you need to know what the other person is at least feeling. And if you're not good at that, the facial, from understanding facial cues or other cues, help people. And I think that's so important.
Now, what do neurodivergent people understand about communication that the business world often misses?
Well, I think that the entrepreneurs that I've worked with, are also vast. The business world will sometimes think of so much of the soft skills and the social skills and not look at the black and white thinking and the processes. And sometimes it is so good to look at the processes to understand where the gray socialization parts may be. So, and I think it's also so important to really be honest in the business world to say, where do you have your challenges? Are you better that you just talk and you just miss social cues, or is it better that you like things written down, or are you a visual thinker? By understanding that, because by the way, that's great for any manager. One of my clients used to help Fortune 500 businesses with workplace connections with neurodivergent individuals in these Fortune 500 businesses. Because as we all know, there's really individuals who are more on the lower end. They may work in the retail or service things. And people then assume this person can do that, which I will tell you, those individuals have talents that I wish managers could better understand the qualifications that they have. So I would say, look at their therapist, talk to their families, see what they're doing so you can get the best output, and they can give you the best output of themselves and pride. And then you have adults in obviously higher performing businesses, which are so task or analytical. And sometimes it's really nice to say, what do you think about that? Are we doing it right? And they'll be like, no, 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 you're missing this whole part. And I think that's great. I always love to ask and say to management when I'm working with them, have you asked them what they're missing, what they don't know? Because when you do, you'll actually figure out the problem you're trying to solve. And I love uncovering that. That is my favorite thing to do.
One of my favorite guests was she was the assistant prime minister of autism in Australia.
Ooh.
And she told me a story about how businesses changed when they had neurodivergent kids in, because the kids went to him and said, "Hey, listen, can you lower the lights and turn off the beeping on the cash registers?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, we can. We'll have to bring in an electrician." They did. Not only were the workers happy, but the people were happier. And their businesses succeeded more because they had happier people working for them.
And it's funny you say that, because I've gotten families from Facebook in Australia who've called me and they're like, the system's completely different. I go, but your fear isn't. You can ask questions, you can understand, you can hope and want to see if this is possible. So you're right. It's and as you said, sometimes lighting and smell can change things for everyone. It's not
Yeah.
just
They don't, I mean, businesses don't realize when when you're neurodivergent, your senses are enhanced.
Yep. Yep.
Some of us have super sensitive
Yeah.
sight, smell, hearing. I mean, with me, I am very sensitive in smell and in hearing. I can hear things very much. I mean, I can hear my mother's phone ringing in her purse in a busy place.
And when my kid, I remember we went to one therapist many, many years ago, and she goes, your son's a super sensor. And I'm like, okay. She goes, and super sensors need to be parented this way. And reflecting back now, it's your son just is more aware of light and sound and noise and water. And, this is how you need to just help him meander through life so that he can be successful in those things. But it's so funny. I really try not to use the marketing terms like the super sensors, because it's because you want to know something. It's you just want to help the person. So when I see someone, and again, more people are diagnosed today because of information. I mean, I have relatives that I know were on the spectrum or had other issues growing up. We never talked about it. And never, I don't know what help they got or didn't get, but I wish I knew, because I think I would have been even more empathetic to them. So it's really a blessing if you open up your eyes and you see it, even though it's crazy. It's, you never know what you're gonna get in a moment.
Now, what have your children taught you that no marketing class could?
Oh, my kids have taught me that materialistic things do not matter. That my younger son, you know, he has only cried a few times in his life. So if he cries, it's a very big deal. And when he cry, so if I watch him cry, I know it's at a new spot. And that has taught me the level of emotion. But also it's even just like I love you. Like he knows I know, so why tell me? Wherein other people might hear it from their mothers or, all the time. So I think they've also told me, taught me really it's black and white thinking. They are very much factually based. So in many ways, it's taught me to figure out, okay, here it is. Here's the black and white. This is what it is. Here's the rule. And how do we break the rule? And more importantly, people are much braver than we give them credit for. Like my son is afraid of food. He's very brave that he'll eat. And all of us are, like, you being in the emergency room with your mother was very brave, because you could have left. She's a grown up. You could have left her and said, Mom will be back. Now, you didn't want to. You were being a good son. You were caring. You were afraid. You were this, but you were brave. And I think that part of life and part of what I've learned is it is so fabulous to be brave. And I don't think I've actually said that out loud, but yeah, I think so. Thank you.
Now, what would you say to the parent listening right now who feels overwhelmed?
You're being brave. Even though you're overwhelmed, you are brave. And if you need to talk to me, call me. I'll talk to you. DM me, call me. I don't care, because you're not alone. Nothing you're doing is alone. And your child will be okay, whether they are verbal or nonverbal, whether they are mobile or immobile, whether they have like a high cognitive ability or not. Like it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, because our job is to love our kids and to find their promise, whatever it is, and hopefully teach them as much as we can and watch the impact they've made in our lives and us and theirs. And it'll all be okay. What you're feeling at that moment is not forever, is not forever. And because how you're feeling this morning is not how you feel this afternoon, because it's never for me. It better be fluid. It better be fluid.
Now, what did you need to hear during your hardest psych season?
This is what we're going to do. It's going to be okay. I surround myself with people sometimes most of the time who are smarter than me. And they tell me, I mean, look, we had a situation Friday. Something happened at my son's school. He told me, and I called one of his therapists, and she goes, "Well, you know what you have to do? You have to take tech away." And I go, "I don't want to take tech away. I don't want to do that. It's Friday night. I don't want to fight." And she goes, "You know what to do. You know why you have to do it. It's the right thing to do." And I will tell you, it was the hardest Friday night I've had in a really long time, but my son learned and my son understood, and I had a plan. And yes, what did I want to do it? No, I don't want to do it. It's hard work. You have to be a parent. So I had to go parent. It was very annoying on a Friday, but now it's Tuesday. And I'm glad I did. And my son learns and he's learning. And I've then taken that to the next level. And every single therapist I've told the story to is like, yep, good. And the hardest part, sometimes we're the hardest, workaround. We stop ourselves because we don't want to feel the pain or the inconvenience. And I highly recommend feeling uncomfortable, because that's the only way you're both going to grow. You as a parent and your child as a child.
That reminds me of a line from the TV show Reba where her younger daughter said something and she goes back and she goes to her, I don't have to like you, but I do have to love you. You're my child.
Oh, I I would be very like my kids don't have to like me. They don't even have to love me, but they have to know that I'm trying really hard to help them. And I just want them to be independent and confident and brave people. That's it. I'm adding brave. I never added brave before, but now I'm adding brave.
Now, when you look back at your life, what do you think the early version of you would be most surprised by?
All of this. I think I really, I had confidence like in my family circle, but I was very shy. And as years gone, and now I will say anything to anyone. I will do anything. I will talk to anyone. I will fight for anything because what do I have to lose? I'm not doing anything unethical. I'm just making sure that I can help other people, including my own family and myself. And I need and I have a great team. I'm never perfect. I really have a great bench. I have a great bench. For someone who never did sports, I have a great bench.
Now, do you think she'd recognize your strength?
Probably somewhere, I think, but you learn from everyone you meet and every role model. And I had amazing, amazing, amazing role models who I still lean on today. It's really, I mean, I didn't even realize my grandmother was a special educator. My other grandmother was a special needs mother who never spoke about being a special needs mother. And if you want to compare something, my grandmother never said anything about my uncle who was ill. And I don't shut up. I mean, you want to talk about the end of the spectrum. It's unbelievable. I think my grandparents would be shocked. Shocked. I don't think they'd be upset, but I think they would be shocked if they saw, the level of communication that I do. I'm not afraid of going on television. I'm not afraid of speaking to people. I'm not because if I can help one person, great. I hope I do because they're going to help me.
Now, what are you most proud of that nobody sees?
I'm really proud of my family because, it is, and it's not easy and it's not pretty, but, we try really hard. And I think at the end of the day, when everybody's grown up, I think it's going to be okay.
Now, what kind of legacy do you hope your children carry forward from watching you fight for them?
I hope they help people. I hope that they see. I think they're going to do it in their own way. Um, but I think I hope they find their own passion and they do what they need to do and try to be that friend. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do is be a friend to these people who feel very alone. And I think it's funny, I mean, the amount of Facebook message requests that I get are staggering. And then I give them my cell, and then I have these cells, and my husband's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, and I always say to a parent, anything you tell me is confidential because I really will not remember it when I hang up the phone. Because I don't, because I'm talking to another family in like 10 minutes. Like I don't, unless I'm having a longer, conversation and we end up figuring out like a relation, I'm helping them on a more of a consultative basis. But yeah, it's fun. I have fun helping people. That's the goal. So if I can help you with your family and help you with yourself, yeah.
If your children hear this episode years from now, what do you hope they understand about the way you love them?
Yes. I think my one child will be like, "Oh, mom, really? You had to say so much about us." The other son, the other son will be like, "Yeah, okay, that's her. That's who she is." So yes, I mean they know I want to help people. I'm not trying to, I don't look, I'm not the best person. I've had a lot of experience where you have children who present differently and have had very different educational and very different therapeutic experiences. You have a really, really, deep bench. And I've learned so much and I'm proud of it. I think that's the other part. I'm not ashamed of anything my kids have done or I've done or I've learned. I mean, you know, I hope everyone has, a neurodivergent connection, quite frankly, because that means you're special. That means that you have been very lucky and chosen to see life or to care about someone who sees their life through this very, very, very beautiful lens. And I'm glad.
What do you hope they never question?
My love for them and my ability to fight for them. I am tenacious. I don't, you know, I'm a strategist. So I am, 10 steps ahead and I'm looking at everything and I'm covering all these bases and I sometimes make them uncomfortable, but that's okay. I'm their mother.
And what has being their parent taught you about yourself?
I think I'm far more empathetic than I think I probably realize, but also I really love the fact that the world consists of people with different points of views. And I think, and different ways of seeing things that may never see or understand. So I think what it taught me is what my non-negotiables are, but also what I need to learn. I mean, and my kids and others, I mean, as I said, I once drove my friend's son to school. He was nonverbal. We used to drive from the east side to the west side and through Central Park. And in Central Park, they have arches. And he would look at the arches. And this little boy was older than my son, but he was nonverbal. So my son at the time would call him a baby. And I go, he's not a baby, but you could see that this child was looking at the architecture and the artwork, things that I had never looked at when I was driving, and my son had never looked at ever and still hasn't. And now, whenever I drive across the 67th Street or 79th, I look at those arches and I fondly think of Jack. I fondly think of like what he was thinking that day and how happy he was. And yeah, you learn things from people who are not like you. And I highly suggest everybody meet people and spend time with people who are not like them.
And finally, where can people find out more about you on the web? Get a hold of you.
Oh, well, oh, well, my Instagram handle is Beth Would Know. My name is Beth Silver Pilchick, and my company is called Dubay Consulting. And anybody who wants to find me can find me. I'm pretty easily to find, and I hope you reach out. I'd love to meet you.
And that was it, everybody. That was Beth Silver. I'm Reed Miles. Stay curious, stay fearless, and remember, wherever you are, you're never alone. Thank you, Beth.
Was that okay?